2 Samuel chapter 13. Amnon and Tamar. Now David's son Absalom had a beautiful sister named Tamar. It happened that Amnon, another of David's sons, loved her. Amnon was so obsessed with his sister Tamar that he became ill because she was a virgin and he could not do anything to her. Amnon had a friend named Jonadab, son of Shemaiah, David's brother, and Jonadab was a very shrewd man. He said to Amnon, O son of the king, why do you look so miserable morning after morning? Will you not tell me? Amnon replied, I love Tamar, sister of my brother Absalom. So Jonadab said to him, Lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill. And when your father comes to see you, say to him, Let my sister Tamar come to give me bread to eat, and let her prepare the food in my presence, so that I may eat it from her hand. So Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill, and when the king came to see him, he told the king, Please let my sister Tamar come to make some cakes in my presence. I will eat from her hand. So David sent for Tamar and said to her, Go to your brother Amnon's house and prepare him some food. Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house where he was lying down. She took dough, kneaded it, made and baked cakes before him. But when she took the pan and set the cakes before him, he refused to eat and said, Send everyone outside. So they all left. Then Amnon said to Tamar, Bring the food into the bedroom and let me eat from your hand. Tamar took the cakes she had made and brought them to her brother Amnon in the bedroom. But when she brought them to him to eat, he grabbed her and said, Come lie with me, my sister. She answered him, No, my brother, do not force me. No such thing is done in Israel. Do not commit this foolishness. Where will I hide my shame, and you yourself will be regarded as a foolish man by all the people. So please talk to the king, for he will not keep me from you. But he refused to listen to her, and being stronger than she, he forced her and lay with her. Afterwards Amnon hated her with a hatred exceeding the love he had for her. He said to Tamar, Get up and leave. But she answered him, No, my brother, sending me away is a greater offense than what you did to me. But Amnon refused to release, and he called his servant and said, Get this woman out and bolt the door behind her. Now Tamar was wearing a long robe with sleeves like those the virgin daughters of the king used to wear. The servant brought her out, bolting the door behind her. Tamar then put ashes on her head and tore the long robe she was wearing. Laying her hand on the head, she went away crying. Her brother Absalom spoke to her, Has your brother Amnon been with you? Be calm and do not take this to heart, for he is your brother. Desolate as she was, Tamar stayed in her brother Absalom's house. When King David heard of this, he was very angry, but did not like to scold Amnon, because he loved him as he was his firstborn. Absalom, for his part, no longer spoke to Amnon. He hated him for having raped his sister Tamar. Absalom avenges his sister. 2 years later, when Absalom had celebrating the shearing of his flock at Baal-Hazor near Ephraim, he invited all the king's sons. He himself went to the king and said, I have shearers, so please let the king and his servants accept my invitation. But the king answered Absalom, No, my son, not all of us should go, lest we be a burden to you. Absalom urged him, but the king refused to go personally, but gave him his blessing. Then Absalom said, If you will not go, please let my brother Amnon come with us. The king replied, Why should he go with you? But Absalom insisted until the king allowed Amnon and all the king's sons to go with him. Absalom prepared a royal feast. Then he commanded his servants, Watch until Amnon gets drunk, and when I tell you, strike Amnon, kill him. Have no fear, for I myself have given you this order. Be brave and determined. So Absalom's servants did to Amnon what he had commanded. On seeing this, all the sons of the king hastily mounted their mules and fled. While they were on their way, a report reached David: Absalom has slain all the king's sons, leaving no one alive. At this the king tore his garments and lay on the ground, and all his servants around him also tore their garments. But Jonadab, son of Shemaiah, David's brother, said, Do not imagine that they have killed all your sons. Only Amnon is dead, for Absalom had decided to kill him from the day Amnon raped his sister Tamar. So let not my lord the king believe that all his sons are dead. Amnon alone is dead. Meanwhile Absalom had fled. Then the watchman on duty saw many people coming from Horonaim road by the side of the mountain. Jonadab said to the king, Your sons are the ones coming. It has come about just as your servant has said. As soon as he had spoken, the king's son came crying aloud. The king too and all his servants wept bitterly. As for Absalom, he fled to Talmai, son of Ammihud, king of Geshur. But King David mourned for his son every day. After Absalom fled and went to Geshur, he stayed there for 3 years. When David was consoled over the death of Amnon, he began to yearn for Absalom. 2 Samuel chapter 14. Absalom returns to Jerusalem. Now Joab, son of Zeruiah, saw that the king was yearning for Absalom. So he sent a messenger to Tekoa to fetch a wise woman, and he told her this: Please pretend to be a mourner, put on mourning garments, and do not perfume yourself with oil, that you may look like a woman who has been mourning for several days for the dead, and go to the king with this message. And Joab told her what to say. When the woman of Tekoa appeared before the king, she fell on her face in homage and said, Help me, O king. The king asked, What is wrong? She answered, Alas, I am a widow, my husband is dead. I, your handmaid, had 2 sons who quarreled with one another in the field. Since there was no one to part them, one struck the other and killed him. Now the entire family demand I give up the one who struck his brother, and they say, We will kill him and avenge his brother's death. So they want to quench my remaining hope. With this they will leave my husband without name or posterity on the earth. Then the king said to the woman, Go home, and I will give orders on your behalf. But the woman of Tekoa said to the king, Let me and my family be blamed, my lord the king, and let the king and his throne not be criticized for this. The king said, If anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall never bother you again. Then she said, Please let the king swear by the Lord his God that the avenger of blood may not deepen in my disgrace by killing my son. The king replied, As the Lord lives, not one hair of your son shall perish. Then the woman said, Please allow me to say something to my lord the king. The king told her, Speak. And she went on, Why do you yourself act against the people of God? In giving this decision, the king condemns himself for not having brought his banished son back home. We are all mortals. We are like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. And God does not bring the dead back to life. So let the king find a way to bring back his banished son. Now if I have come to talk about this to my lord the king, it is because the people scared me, and I thought, I will speak to the king, perhaps he will listen to me. If he agrees to help me when I tell him about the man who seeks to cut off both me and my son from the inheritance God gave us, he will surely give the decision which will bring us peace. For my lord the king is like an angel of God in understanding everything. The Lord your God be with you. Then the king said to the woman, Do not hide anything from me when I question you. The woman replied, Let my lord the king speak. The king asked, Is Joab behind you in all this? The woman answered, As you surely live, my lord the king, all is as my lord the king says. It was your servant Joab who ordered me and taught me everything I had to say. Joab did this to give the story a different angle, but my Lord is as wise as an angel of God, knowing all things that happen on earth. Then the king told Joab, "Well, I shall do it. Go fetch the young man Absalom." Joab fell on his face to the ground in homage and blessed the king, saying, "Today I know that you look kindly on me, my lord the king, because you have granted this my request." Joab went on his way to Geshur to fetch Absalom and bring him to Jerusalem. The king, however, told him, "Let him stay in his own house, for I shall not receive him." So Absalom stayed in his own house and was not received by the king. In all Israel there was no one as praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. From the sole of his feet to the crown of his head he was without defect. When he cut his hair, every year he cut his hair when it became too heavy for him. He weighed it, and it weighed 200 shekels by the king's weight. There were born to Absalom 3 sons and a daughter named Tamar, a beautiful woman. For 2 years Absalom stayed in Jerusalem, but the king did not receive him. Absalom called for Joab to send him to the king, but Joab refused to see him. He called for him a second time, but Joab would not come. So Absalom said to his servants, "You know Joab's field, which is next to mine, and planted with barley, go set it on fire." And so they did. Then the servants of Joab came to him to tell him, "The servants of Absalom have set your field on fire." Then Joab went to Absalom's house and asked him, "Why have your servants set my field on fire?" Absalom replied, "Look, I sent word to you and said, 'Come over, for I want to send you to the king with this message.' Why did you let me return from Geshur? It would be better for me to be there still. Now I want to be received by the king. If I am guilty, let him send me to death." Joab went to the king and brought him the message. So the king called for Absalom, who appeared before the king, bowing low with his face to the ground, and the king embraced Absalom. Psalm 127. What is built without God will fail. Unless the Lord builds the house, in vain do its builders toil. Unless the Lord guards the city, in vain does the guard stay awake. It is in vain that you rise up early and stay up late, putting off your rest, toiling for your hard-earned bread, for he provides for his loved ones even when they are asleep. Sons are a gift from the Lord, the fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are the sons of one's youth. Blessed is the man who has filled his quiver with them, for he will not be put to shame when he contends with his foes at the gate. John chapter 3 verse 19 to 36. This is the judgment, that the light has come into the world, and people love darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. For whoever does wrong hates the light and does not come to the light, for fear that his deeds will be shown as evil. But whoever lives according to the truth comes into the light, so that it can be clearly seen that his works have been done in God. The final witness of the Baptist. After this, Jesus went into the territory of Judea with his disciples. He stayed there with them and baptized. John was also baptizing in Ainon near Salim, where water was plentiful. People came to him and were baptized. This happened before John was put in prison. Now a dispute arose between John's disciples and a Jew about ceremonial cleansing. So they came to John and said, "Rabbi, the one who was with you across the Jordan and to whom you bore witness is now baptizing, and all are going to him." John answered, "No one can take on anything if it has not been given him from heaven. You yourselves are my witnesses that I said, 'I am not the Christ, but I have been sent before him.' Only the bridegroom has the bride, but the friend of the bridegroom stands by and listens. and is happy to hear the bridegroom's voice. My joy is now complete. He must increase and I must decrease. The one who comes from heaven. He who comes from above is above all. He who comes from the earth belongs to the earth, and his words too are earthly. The one who comes from heaven speaks of the things he has seen and heard. He bears witness to this, but no one accepts his testimony. Yet whoever accepts his testimony acknowledges the truthfulness of God. For God sent him, and he speaks God's own words, and God gives him the Spirit without measure. The Father loves the Son and has entrusted everything into his hand. Whoever believes in the Son has eternal life, but he who will not believe in the Son will never know life. The wrath of God rests on him.